Okay, hello everyone. My name is Orlin and I'm the community manager for Velero. Today is July 19th, and that's the official community meeting for the project. So please follow the code of conduct and practically be nice to each other. And yeah. So with that said, today, please, I've pasted the link to the HackMD for the community meeting notes into the chat. Please add yourself there and add your topics. I'm going to share. I hope you can see that. So, few topics for today. Scott, do you want to take off?
Yeah, sure. So just a few updates. The most recent thing was we had an issue with 190 where we changed the way the validation was done for BSLs, and in 190 there was a situation where basically it was being constantly validated over and over again, several times a second rather than once a minute. There was a fix that was pushed to the branch for that works in the full upstream environment where you're managing your BSLs directly, but as part of this, we discovered an unrelated bug that affected us in OADP, and in fact would affect you in any situation where you have an external controller managing your BSL spec. Because for OADP, we have a controller that basically the user specifies the BSL settings, and then that operator kind of manages the Velero BSL to make sure that the spec is consistent with what the user specified. And so there was one of the validation for the BSL spec was calling, initializing the object store, and the object store needs certain things added to the configuration map, credentials file and other things. And what that code was doing was actually modifying the in-memory BSL config and then passing in that config value, but not saving it. But the BSL validation was saving the BSL object because it had other changes that it might need to make, for example, as default and the last update time. And so there was a side effect of calling this validation of inserting these unnecessary fields in the spec, which then our OADP controller was removing immediately. And so they were kind of fighting over that config value, which meant that even though the change was made to the processing for OADP, we were still doing the multi-validation. I have a PR that was approved on main that basically, instead of doing that, it makes a deep copy of that config map in memory and passes that on to the object store, because the object store doesn't actually deal with backup storage location objects. It just takes a map of config values. So there's no need to modify that Kubernetes resource anyway. So with that change, we shouldn't see this kind of flip-flopping of config in environments where there's an external controller managing backup storage locations. So that's merged to main. We just need to also get it onto the release 1.9 branch. I think that was because we were hoping to get 1.9.1 to fully fix that validation bug once that comes out. So we just need one more act for that one. If we can get that act today, that would be great. But whenever it can be. So have a couple of other PRs out. Item action progress monitoring design. We talked about this in a little more detail last week. I made some updates in response to some feedback. I still need to look at that open implementation PR from Dave from a few months back to see if that PR introduces any new concepts that are missing in the design. So I will look at that this week as well. And if anyone else has further commentary on that, that would be great. And then I have a implementation PR for Vsl Credentials submitted before 1.9, but we decided it was too risky to get that in before the 1.9 deadline. So we're hoping to get that in 1.10. I did see there was a comment. I need to go back and look to see if I need to make a change or not to that. So that's pretty much it for me.
Great. Any questions for Scott and the PRs? Anyone?
Yeah, and if you have a question now, we can talk about it. If not, comment on the PRs and we can take it that way on GitHub.
Yep.
Hey Scott, did we get any input from Dave for this PR?
I have not heard anything. I don't really know what his level of participation is at this point. The one big question I kind of had for Dave, And in the absence of any feedback, it may be that, because basically one of the issues, and this was brought up, I believe, one of the reviewers was suggested. So we're on the item. Which one is that? Yeah, the item action progress monitoring. And one of the things that Dave's proposal had was that when the backup was otherwise completed and we're just waiting for uploads, it would go into this uploading state, and we've renamed it in my PR to be a more general, waiting for an action completion or something. But the point was that in his design, we weren't writing the backup to the object store until all that waiting was done, and then we moved on to completed. And the question was posed on the PR, why don't we just write it now? Because we're not, even though we're waiting for action to finish, we're waiting for external processes to finish. There's nothing that's going to happen in that upload that's going to affect the content of the Velero backup. Why don't we just write it now that we have it, instead of holding it in memory while the next backup goes? And I actually agree with that change. I think this also gives us, if the Velero server were to crash, say during that next backup, the backup that was otherwise completed and just waiting, well, that backup, it's already written, so we have it. Whereas we'd lose it in the case where we're waiting to upload it. So I actually think we should probably do that. I was kind of curious whether Dave had a reason for the waiting, or it was one of these things where he just kind of thought, since we're currently not writing until we're done, let's just wait. And so that might be a change we could make without any detriment to functionality, and with some obvious kind of improvements. So my inclination at this point is to go with the idea that once we are at the point where we update the backup state to, hey, we're just waiting for uploads to complete, that's the point where we need to write the backup to object store. But there's some question about like logs. Do we write logs? We may have to refactor the logs so that we can then add additional logs, because obviously this there will be some logs associated with this follow-up, checking. But that would just be one more set of method, and then we may not even need that, because basically at this point the backup's done. The only thing left for this backup is for Velero to wait until we're, if there are any errors from those processes, that would obviously need to go into the log. So that may be the complication of needing to update or add an additional log. I think that's fine. I think we even may have, I thought there might have been a PR a while back where we had some notion of adding another log after the first log. So we'll have to think about how this affects logs. I think that's probably the main complication, but my inclination is to do that, to write the backup as soon as Valero's done with it, because anything else is going to reduce reliability over what we do now.
Cool.
I don't know if there's any other comments or feedback on that, but again, feel free to respond now or respond on the PR.
Do you need my help to pursue Dave to provide that feedback, or?
If you can reach out to him just to see if he has any comments, that'd be great. And mainly just because I'm taking a proposal he made and deliberately changing it and combining another use case. So it'd be great to hear his feedback on whether I missed anything important or whether I'm going in the wrong direction. We can go forward without it if he's totally unavailable, but if he's got the time to look at it, that would obviously be welcome.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I'll try to reach out to him and if he can provide something.
Yeah, and if he says everything's fine or he doesn't have time to look at it, that's fine too. But if he wants to provide some feedback, as to suggested changes or pointing out why certain things were done the way and maybe we need to go back to that, that's fine too.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Anyone else? Anything to discuss on this one, or if not, anyone planning any vacations for the upcoming months? Because it's like, at least for our region, it's like middle of the summer, and I'll be on vacation the full August and half of September. So I want to plan.
Not much for me. I'm going to be gone for about a week, kind of end of July, beginning of August, kind of half of the end of July and half of the first week of August. But about a week total, kind of July 27th until August 2nd, something in that range. But that's the only upcoming one for me.
in that case, do you mind if you lead these meetings, the one that are in that time zone that I cannot, and I can upload them later to YouTube when we have the recording?
Yeah, that's fine. So that would be the meetings, the noon meetings twice a month during August and the first part of September. If you just send me a message offline, just to Slack us exactly what days and all that. And if there's anything I need to do in terms of recording and permissions and accounts and all, we can work that out offline.
Yeah, I have to add you as a host, so I'm not sure how I can do that because you're external to that Zoom account.
Yeah,
but it shouldn't be a problem, I think. Yeah, okay. And they're all in the calendar already, so you have it.
Yeah,
just
right. And yeah, I might suggest too, if you have to go to that trouble and you can get it to work, if you can add Shubham as well, because that way, if there's a week that I'm gone, he might be available. Just because, for example, I know I'm going to miss one Tuesday, and the first Tuesday in August. I don't. That's I think that's the U.S. time zone meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I know the first Tuesday in August I'm not going to be available.
Okay.
And there may be others, but that's kind of it basically, if Shubham can be a backup, and I haven't talked to him yet, so I don't mean to volunteer him, but
I'm fine. I'm gonna be available through all the July, August months.
You won't be, or you will be?
Yeah, I'm fine. I can record the meetings if Scott is unable. Yeah.
Okay, let's. Okay, I'll take that offline. Get all the dates, and we can discuss like in common chat in Slack or something. Who can take what? Okay. And the next one. Thank you very much about that. And the next one, updates on the meeting time change. I think it's still an ongoing discussion. Unfortunately, there is no like much of attention right now. So
and obviously with your upcoming outage, let's not change it until you get back probably. But I just wanted to mention briefly, if you don't mind, kind of what I commented there, in case there's feedback. I know you'd initially hoped to have a single time that works for everybody, and I think the feedback that I've seen, and I think I agree with that, is that there's really not one time that works for everybody. Every time you pick is going to be inconvenient for somebody. So I think we probably still need to stick with the split times. But I think we probably, and I think the Beijing time is fine. That works for US East Coast, that works for US West Coast. It doesn't work for you, unfortunately, which is, but again, this goes back to the problem of the number of time zones. But the US time, the current meeting, I'm thinking that if we move this meeting 2 hours earlier, that makes it better for Beijing. So it's still not ideal for them, but it's close enough so that if there's an important discussion, they can come in, because it's going to be 10 o'clock, not midnight. So in other words, my thinking is, if we can make the best schedule is one that for most people is convenient twice a month and slightly inconvenient, but still possible twice a month. We're trying to avoid, having a time where it's totally impossible for a maintainer to come half the time. So I would recommend moving the US centric meeting, say 2 hours earlier. That does make it less convenient for the West Coast, for California, because instead of at 9, it's at 7. But again, that goes back into it's slightly inconvenient, but still possible if it's an important issue. But otherwise, I believe the Beijing centric time is actually much more convenient for the West Coast, because, it's 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, I guess there. So I don't know. That's just my kind of my opinion, just as a kind of a factor there, and what I would support. I'm not sure what others think.
I'm okay with that, moving the 9 a.m. Pacific time to 7 a.m. Pacific time also. I'm okay with that, because that also helped my teammate John Chen in Boston, so he can attend that time zone in that time zone. Okay too. So I'm okay with that. If we want to move, right? If we agree to move, because I also know that people may not work that early in California.
Right. Yeah. My thinking is that moving it 2 hours earlier makes it a little bit harder for you in California, but a lot easier for Beijing. That's kind of my thinking there. The Beijing time, I think it's fine as is. I think any earlier is bad for them, and any later is kind of bad for.
But personally, I don't have any problem, because I wake up at 5 a.m.
Oh, okay. Well, then you're good.
So in that case, the Beijing teams, they can also attend like today's meeting. Right.
Yeah, that's my thinking, is that it's still kind of late for them, so that's not ideal, but it's better than midnight, because right now it's midnight in Beijing, and it'll be 10 p.m., which is it's late for a meeting, but if there's an important issue that you want to discuss, it's still probably when you're awake. So it's an improvement, even though it's not ideal. And any earlier than that, I mean, even say 9 a.m. instead of 10 a.m. my time would be fine for me, but that's even harder for California. So that's why I'm saying make it 2 hours earlier instead of 3 hours earlier. But for the East Coast, 3 hours earlier would also work. Would be even better for Beijing. But again, that's worse for California. So.
Yeah, I agree with you, Scott, on this one.
And the other question is, I don't know who's going to be. I know in terms of people in California, other than Feng, if Dave is going to be participating regularly, then his availability is also relevant here. If he's actually not going to be on the meetings, I know he hasn't been in the last few weeks, then we don't really need to accommodate that. I don't know what to say. So if you're reaching out to him on this other issue, it might be worth bringing that up as well, just to see where he is on it. If he's not planning on being on the meetings, then we cannot worry about that aspect of the scheduling. But if he is, then knowing when he's available is helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. And I'm gonna also tag all the maintainers and main contributors into that discussion, so everyone can add their opinion there.
Yeah. As far as I know right now, everybody on the Red Hat side that's contributing is in the U.S. East Coast. So any of the times we're discussing, I think it'd be fine. Anything from 9 a.m. later. So the only area where I think from the Red Hat point of view would be not ideal would be if we decided to make the Beijing time later than it currently is. But as long as it's the current time, I think we're good on that one.
Okay. Okay, but I think that that change should how to put that should take a bit longer to be discussed and to be,
oh yeah, and I don't think it makes sense to change it right before you leave for vacation, and other people are going to be gone anyway. So I think discussing it now is good, but I think let's plan for making a change back when most people's vacations are resolved and we're back on kind of more predictable schedules.
Yeah, I think like beginning of September, mid-September, we can start doing it. Okay, great. Okay. So anyone else? Any other topics to discuss? No. We're all still waiting for the Kipcon announcements. I think it will be like mid-August or beginning of first week of August.
Yeah, I think they said first week of August was the plan, at least from what I remember.
Yeah, they announced the final cut for the talks. So let's see what's accepted and what's not.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so that's everything from my side. Anyone else wants to add something else, or?
Oh, Feng, was there anything the issue with the protobuf stuff? And I saw a comment that the suggested change that worked for me wasn't working. Were you able to work that out? I saw another comment from someone else that was working.
I was able to update it to your version, the Proto 3.6 or something, whatever the version you put on Slack. I was able to make it to run the update completely without error. However, I got stuck on other issues, so I haven't.
Okay, but the files are showing up in the right spot now.
I haven't checked that. I think
I
got it. Yeah, I would double check. I will work on it today to see.
Okay, I do know that from the discussions when I was trying to follow through and figure this out, this was, I believe, a more recent functionality update. So if you had an old version, it might not work. But I know it works for me, and I think I saw another comment from another maintainer that the suggestions I had also worked for him. So hopefully with the same version, and hopefully the version that's in, and the other question we have to figure out is, once it works for us in our local environments, in terms of the builds and the container builds and the versions that Velero uses, we need to make sure that's working. Obviously, we may need to update the dependency if it needs something newer, but that's something we can handle once it's all working locally and everything looks right, that way.
Yeah, yeah. Let me check it out, and I will update you on Slack.
Yeah, sure.
Scott, is that thing that you just discussed some issue open?
Yeah, let me see if I can find it.
It's a Velero plugin versioning code chain that I submit a PR.
Right.
for,
There's a
and,
PR for it. I just don't remember the name of it. Yeah, if you can look up the PR and link it to Slack so everyone can see it. But it's basically the PR where we're implementing the plugin versioning for backups. I think you started with backup storage location was the first one. Sorry, backup item action. Yeah, it's the backup item action V1, I believe, is in the title of the PR. Or V2. No, that could be V1, sorry.
Yeah, I can post on the README doc.
Oh, actually, it looks like Shubham posted a PR. Is that the one?
Oh yeah.
No, this is the one. Sorry, this is the one.
Yeah, that's the one.
943. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the one we're talking about. 4943. Yeah, so it's 4943.
Or
4943. Yeah, because this involved moving some of our the protobuf stuff into multiple directories with different packages, and so we needed to change the way we were building to get those files to show up in the right place, the generated Go files. So.
Okay. I just want to, read what the issue is.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna add that.
Yeah. So this is a refactoring PR that doesn't add new versions yet. It just moves the files into the right V1 directory, kind of to prepare the way for adding a V2 version of the API.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else? If not, have a great rest of the day and talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.